Kenny Baker R2-D2?
Yeah. So let's discuss filming then.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm ready.
How did you come to the subject matter? What was it that attracted you?
I think it was a kind of quite a long story of, I guess in like 1998 or something, I'd been reading Verhoeven on Verhoeven, the Faber book, and it said, it detailed how when he did his national service, he'd filmed lots of troop movements and like beach landings and stuff, and that had helped him shoot all that big action sequences. Had helped him think about how he was going to do like Soldier of Orange and Starship Troopers and stuff. And I was like very envious, and I was thinking, well, how, you know, I can shoot people in rooms, but how can I get to shoot soldiers and big canvas stuff? So I ended up thinking, oh, I'll talk to the SEAL Knot, who are like a battle reenactment society in the UK who do Civil War stuff. So I talked to them, and I started shooting a documentary about what they do, and I did a recruitment video on this massive battle scene thing, and but while I was kind of trying to use them, they kind of started indoctrinating me with information about the Civil War, which I didn't really know much about, and my kind of interest for it started from there. And I started reading up on it, and it's just fascinating, that whole period. So that was the start of it.
And how are you dealing with kind of the historicism of it, the historical quality? Was it something you just kind of threw out at a certain point, or is it something you were holding strong to the entire time?
I think the trick of it is that you want it to be right, but you don't want to put too much information in that you would come unstuck if you came up against a bunch of scholars. You know, I had a fear of being ripped asunder at loads of Q&As by people who'd been studying the period their whole life, and you can't fight that because you just can never know as much as them, you know. But and Amy Jump, who wrote it, felt exactly the same way, and she was like, oh, you know, we've done the research, but it's combing it out of the script so that you don't feel that, you know, you can't be pinned down to too much specifically. So it's pretty good, and it's pretty accurate. And we had a review in a historical magazine where they analysed it, and it seemed to, you know, we didn't drop too many terrible clangers in it, but it's quite terrifying, all that, because you want it to be right as possible, but then there's things you just don't know. I mean, one of the things we found which was really interesting was that there wasn't that much detail about what people wore. It just wasn't, you know. If you were just a man on the street, no one really bothered to write it down or draw it. So there's paintings of battles and stuff, and then rich people would have their paintings, portraits done, but beyond that, there wasn't much detail, you know.
Well, that brings up the class component of the film. Like, how did you deal with the costumes and like this quality that there's a different class dynamic in all of these characters?
Well, I think it's that when we were doing the costumes, or when Emma Fry did the costumes, not the same Emma Fry from Kill List, a separate one, different woman, she kind of looked at it in the way that you look at when you dress. When you do set design for things at a period, it's like if you do a house that's set in a flat that's set in the 1970s, you don't fill it full of stuff that was made just in the 70s. It goes back in time, you know, back to Victorian times or older, you know. So stuff is mixed and matched. So when you've got those costumes in Field some of them are contemporary, but some of the clothing is very old, you know, and or the design of it wouldn't have changed in hundreds of years. So that was part of it. And then she also looked at the difference between European fashion and English fashion, because some of the characters had been in Europe and come back. There's lots of complicated backstory stuff that we'd written in but wasn't in the film, you know. So say someone like the character that Peter Ferdinando plays is someone who's fought in the wars in Europe and then come back to England for the Civil War, and the same with the Cutler character as well. Yeah, his clothing is kind of more European than it is English.
Did you do any research similarly into kind of magic? Because it's like at that same period was being developed, like Magic with a K, which I looked into watching this for the first time since like discovering Current 93.
Right.
But there's like some interesting quotes that I got, for instance, that magic is theoretically possible to cause in any object, any change which the object is capable by nature. So
Right.
like you have the drugs, but you also have like alchemy and things like that all mixing in this film.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, some of it's a bit like Kill List in that respect, that some of it is researched and some of it, oh, hello, thank you.
Thank you.
Some of it's made up.
Okay.
So you have that mixture of fiction based on fact kind of thing. So it's kind of, you have things like the Scrying Mirror they're all real things. I mean, the whole idea of like a crystal ball is pretty much, as far as I understand it, is any surface that's shiny that you can look into and mesmerise yourself. Then you can see the future in. So the Scrying Mirror is just a disc. You do the same thing. You could do it in a shiny bit of metal or whatever. But the things like the runes that he throws up are things that have been made up for the story. So which are kind of beyond understanding. So.
Oh, interesting. You mentioned the ambition of the battle sequences, but it's at once it seems like your most ambitious film, but also it's a very contained film, almost stage-like because you have 4 characters. How did you balance those two qualities?
I mean, it's kind of another pragmatic film like Down Terrace, where it's built out of. It started with us wanting to make a film, and we had a little bit of money left over from Sightseers that we'd earned, and we had that as the nut of the budget, which was, I don't know, about 40 grand or something, and we were just going to make any movie that, you know, once you got 40 grand, that dictates very much what you can do. So we'd started from that position, but then Film 4 came in and we had a little bit more money, but it wasn't. But we're already down that process of going, well, what's it going to be, you know? So Amy, we were going to shoot it in the woods, and Ames was saying, well, we've done the woods quite a lot, you know, it's all over Kill List and it's all over Sightseers, and we're trying to find new way, you know, try not to repeat ourselves too much. So she came up with this idea of doing it in a field and just saying, well, look, it's like a blank canvas and it's a control. It's a bit like, you know, you get with these movies like, you know, Rope or like Lifeboat or something, where it's just like it's a totally. He set out a parameter to start with, and then he works within it, and I think that was really interesting. And also, I think we've been watching Dogville as well, so there was a bit of that in it too.
It seemed also in production that the most striking image was the amount of lenses you had. Like, how did you devise the look of the film?
Well, Laurie and I had been doing a lot of testing. I've been on the internet and I was looking for lenses for my stills camera, and whenever you search in Amazon, they always come up with these lenses which are like 20 quid or 10 quid or 5 quid, and I always wondered what they were, so I just bought a load of them to see what they were. And they're kind of like plastic. They're really weird. It's like you get one which has got an EOS mount on, and you clack it onto your camera, and then all the other lenses just are like on sleeves that fit on top. And so it makes all this crazy refraction all through the plastic, and they're really terrible lenses, you know. But when you look at them, they kind of feel really old, and and Laurie was saying it's all the things they've been trying to get rid of in optics over the last 100 years. These are all the errors that these things have. So anyway, so I bought those, and we played around with those for a bit, and we really liked them. And I was also thinking down the line of like pinhole cameras, and like which is basically, you know, just a port cap for the camera with just a hole in it, and if you get the hole the right size, then you can take a photograph with it, and it's like what original, you know, old cameras used to be. But you need a lot of light to make those work. So you could take a digital still with them, but you couldn't shoot video up until recently. But the cameras are now the ISO so high on them, I figured, oh, maybe we can make our own pinhole movie lens and start. So we did some tests and they didn't really work, but it got us thinking about, well, let's make the hole a bit bigger and just make some lenses. So we bought some telescopes and stuff from toy shops and smashed them up and looked at the optics in those, and some of the lenses in the film are from that.